What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Black Myth Wukong, I guess, one more time before the game comes out. So we talked about the review scores, and there is one part of that, I want to talk about in this video. But tonight, going into tomorrow, is the big day. Not just for Gamescom tomorrow, I'm very excited for that as well, but also to finally start to play Black Myth. So just as a quick aside to start this video, I'll have videos starting probably Wednesday. Give me like a day or two, right, to get into this game, and I'll have my own review. We'll talk about the game and go from there, okay? But I want to kind of clean up these last remaining stories that I didn't get to talk about, one of which is that 6 out of 10 that the game got, I believe, from Screen Rant. I want to talk about that one. And then also want to talk about this message, this document that was sent out to creators. A lot of drama, right, regarding that. I want to clean that up in this video as well. I know one other thing just to throw out as like an honorable mention. Those reviews, right, all being PC, that does have me worried to an extent. Now, I do believe PS5 footage has been shown, and it seems okay, and I'm happy about that. Tomorrow is going to be, I don't want to say make or break, because redemption stories are always a thing, but I'm very interested to see how this thing does on PlayStation. Like, does it actually run from beginning to end? The PC version was said in many reviews, and this is something I do think I can trust the game journalists. Not everything, but for this, I think I can, that the game sometimes doesn't run all that well. And it's not all that well optimized and needs that kind of day one patch. So I'm getting it on PlayStation. Like, that's my plan tomorrow, is to buy it there. We'll see how that goes. But we'll keep that in our heads as the days go on. Okay, let's talk about the 6 out of 10 real fast, and it leads us directly into that document that was sent out. So 6 out of 10. Here's the deal, right? I am not one of those people that, and you see a lot of these people, but I want to just declare I'm not one of them. There'll be a lot of people that say 7.5 out of 10. I would have given it a 7.8 when they didn't play it yet. 8 out of 10. Oh my God, this looks more like a 9 versus an 8. That goes more into the drama with numbers for review score that I've talked about many times, right? Like, I'm very, very, very anti-number, right? I've talked about my opinion on reviews in general and how people maybe value them a little too highly, but specifically the number is a big issue for me. So I just, again, want to throw it out there that when I talk about a 6 out of 10, I'm not complaining that it got a 6 out of 10 or that, it deserved a 6.85, things like that. We haven't played it yet. Everybody has their own opinion, and one person might value a specific, element of a game more than another. However, let me say this, right? When I will complain, or when I do complain, when I do think it's valid to complain, is if you have kind of an outside factor contributing to that review score. So I constantly go back to Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy, there were a couple of reviews where you could tell the J.K. Rowling hate and the all that kind of stuff hate made its way into the review. That it got a 7, not because of the quality of the game, but because of some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. That stuff is garbage. That stuff has no place, in my opinion, in a review. You go back to the legend that is Kotaku with the PS5 review, right? Mentioning literally the presidential, combatants of Trump versus Biden. Thinking about that and going back, by the way, to that PS5 review, say 10, 15 years from now, is going to be even more hilarious than it was, because it makes absolutely no sense that was included. So those kind of things I'm very, very much against, right? And that brings us to the Screen Rant one, where they gave it a 6 out of 10. Not only do they give it a 6 out of 10, but one of the main negatives, right, when they go over their big pros and their big cons, the things that contribute the most to that review score, one of the cons is the lack of diversity, inclusion, that stuff. And that is about as big of a joke. I mean, I don't even really feel the need to get into why it's a big joke, other than to just say it out loud. That is a gigantic... I mean, do they not? Do you think of the source material? Do you think of like what's going on in the game? And also, not every game needs to be inclusive. Not every game needs to be diverse. I always forget that line, but like the game for everyone is a game for no one, something along those lines. That continues to come out, right? Like, you make a game, you're trying to get everybody, you're trying to make sure nobody's upset at you. You're actually making a game for not a single person. They are making a game for a select group of people, and to think that that's not the case, or to want it to not be the case, that should not influence the review score. So again, to not get too deep as to why, that would bring it down, it is a joke, and I did see it because I talked about the review scores in general, and they did get pretty good scores, right? But I saw people say, hey, did you see that specific review? Not because, look, like the 6 out of 10, it brings the average down, right? I think it's got like an 81, 82, something like that. I mean, a 6 being under that by quite a bit does bring that number down, right? So, you did contribute to a lower score. And again, like that's, for me, you want to give it a 6 out of 10, you give it a 6 out of 10. I'm not a numbers guy. I am a numbers guy, but I don't like scores, right? So it's like, okay, I'm not like a huge fan of numbers in general. You want to give it a 6, you want to give it a 7.23, whatever. I don't care if it brings it down, raises it up. It doesn't matter to me. But the reasoning you gave it to, if you had a valid reason in your own mind, that's fine. But this is a reason. It's just not a valid reason, at least to me. Like, you say something like that, and this is just, and I think I even tweeted about this. This is why people don't trust reviewers, and not even just me. Like, I think actually my audience does actually trust me quite a bit, and I don't take that for granted. I really try to tell you guys how I feel about things, and I think that's how I kind of win over your trust. But this is why, in the grand scheme of things, trust has been lost, because you put stupid stuff like that in. You say it's not diverse enough, so we're docking a point. You wonder why nobody cares about your site. You wonder why nobody cares about your review. You wonder why nobody cares about your review score, right? Okay, well, that leads us directly into this Google form, right? Okay, my controversial, yet I would say, honestly, not too controversial thoughts of that form, right? So in case you guys don't know, in case you missed it over the weekend, so there was a form that was being sent around that originally was discredited. Originally it was, this is fake. Nobody had seen it. Like it was leaked online, but people think it was just made up, right? Turns out that's not true. Creators, influencers did get that email, did get that form that told them the do's and don'ts. Critics, journalists, did not get that email. What's funny about it is that email would have very, very much stopped Screen Rant from doing what they did. Otherwise, they would have been massively in trouble with Game Science and with Black Myth Wukong, right? But the thing that they sent to the influencers was a big do's and don'ts list. You're allowed to talk about this. You're not allowed to talk about that. And in the don'ts, it was a lot of political stuff. You're not allowed to talk about feminist, propaganda, and some things that made people very, very mad, by the way, at least certain people. So, okay, honestly, again, like controversially yet not controversially, here's what I think. And I'll start with maybe the more controversial part. You shouldn't be told what to say in the review, especially if it's a non-sponsored, they're not giving money. We talked about that Ubisoft kind of situation. If they're just sending out the codes, they shouldn't be requiring anything. Okay, I mean, that's just my belief. I guess it is only my belief, right? But for me, you send a code, there should be no criteria of please mention this, please don't mention that. Now, sometimes it's mentioned like, hey, don't talk about chapters 6 and up. Don't show these bosses. Don't talk about these bosses. That stuff happens. I've gotten that stuff, honestly, when I've reviewed games. Don't talk past a certain point. Don't talk about the ending, right? Don't show, like, the final boss. I've had that. That's totally, like, that stuff doesn't apply to what I just said, right? You want to save these things in terms of spoilers. I think you have every right to. I think that's actually the right move just in general, okay? You don't need to be showing the full game. Yet you have the McFire ices and all that stuff that do just upload the entire game 4 days before the game comes out. I never understand it, but whatever. Okay, that stuff is fine. But when it comes to, hey, can you not talk about this or that, they're touchy subjects. They're definitely touchy subjects. And for me, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise what I think about those subjects. They shouldn't be in the review in general. So my controversial thought is this, right? The things that they emailed these influencers and said, don't talk about the thing that happened around the world in 2020. That was one of them. Don't mention that. You could be saying, well, why in God's name would you mention it? And that's where I agree 1,000%, right? So many of the don'ts, don't say this, don't say that, I would never in my life put in a review on Black Myth Wukong. I think anybody with a functional brain would not put it in, but some people don't have that. Some people like to go off script so much that they feel the need to bring in things that have absolutely nothing to do with the game. I've mentioned, again, the Kotaku thing. Does Trump versus Biden have anything to do with the system, a once every 7-8 year thing in the PS5? Do the presidents have anything to do with that? Absolutely not. Yet somehow that made it into the review. Now, here's what I think should happen, right? They should be allowed to do it. I will say that I don't want it in there. I think it's very, very stupid to put anything like that in there. They should have the right to put it in if they want, and then it's our responsibility to laugh at them and to not read it, not support it, not click it, not give them money for it. That's where I stand on it. And I think actually when you boil it down, it's actually quite simple in that way, right? So Am I a fan of them telling these influencers what they should and not even should, what they can talk about and cannot? You can't mention certain things. No, I'm actually not a fan of that at all. I think you should be given the right to just say whatever you want. Then the responsibility is on the reviewer. You know what I mean? Like, and do people not want that? At least I do. Like, me being, I wouldn't call myself a reviewer, but, I'm a content. I think that's probably the only thing I would consider myself, content creator. I don't know if I'm a critic, any of that stuff. But if I get a game or I play a game, I play games every night. I've done Back to the Past, right? My third channel. I'm reviewing a game basically every week, right? When I go through it, I like to be able to say whatever I want. But, I have to keep myself on script. I have to keep myself, like on topic. You know what I mean? Like maybe I tell a weird off story of how I got a game or whatever that doesn't have to do with the gameplay itself. But I think it's, it makes sense to include that as part of the story. That's my decision, right? And that should be up to the person. So when you're giving this code out to people, you should be giving them, you should have the respect and almost the trust that you are going to let them kind of just go off. And now here's the thing, again, if they don't do what you think they're going to do, if they do mention for whatever reason the Chinese government or any of those things on that don'ts list, right? Again, why in God's name would you mention any of that stuff? You'd have to be a very different kind of person, in my opinion, and some people are. So while I wouldn't want any of those things in the review, I don't think they should be telling people what to say. So that's my opinion on that. They shouldn't have sent the form out in the first place. Yet again, to see both sides of it, like on the other side of things, it seems like people almost need those restrictions because for some reason, and like the funny thing is, Screen Rant kind of proves that form is almost needed, and yet it really shouldn't be needed. That hence, kind of my viewpoint on it, right? Like I almost understand why they sent it out because but they didn't send it out, I think, to the right people. I would say content creators are the more, at least right now, they are the more in line. They're the ones that actually stay on task more often than not. It's the Kotakus, it's the Polygons and GameSpots of the world. Those are the ones that go off script. Those are the ones that you read some of those articles, they're bringing in all sorts of real world stuff in. You know what I mean? Like all of the stuff that has nothing to do with the game, they're injecting into it. Content creators, some of them do, but not. I would say it's more journalists than content creators. So my biggest thing is actually, I think you sent it to the wrong people. I think you actually should have sent it to Screen Rant because they're the ones, ironically, that end up doing exactly what you didn't want creators to do, right? That's actually the most funny thing to me is what they did actually happen, but it happened with a group of people that you didn't send that form to. At the same time, let me make it crystal clear for the fifth time. They shouldn't have sent it in the first place. Okay, so that's my opinion on it. Weird, very, very weird. Like you don't even see it all that often. And again, I kind of understand it to an extent because this stuff is happening, and they might say we don't want you bringing up, whatever it might be. We don't want you bringing it up when you're supposed to be just talking about our game. I agree, but I think the people should be smart enough to do it anyway. If they're not smart enough to do it, then the viewers need to hold them accountable, right? If Screen Rant can't do it, then we need, not by threatening, not by doing anything stupid like that, right? By simply like I saw the review on Metacritic. I didn't click it. I haven't been on Screen Rant in forever. I'm not giving them ad money. That's how you hurt them, right? That's how you send a message that stuff doesn't fly. That a 6 out of 10, fine, 6 out of 10. But because you're docking it for whatever stupid reasons you're saying, like that is what I don't support. So I'm not supporting your site. Like that's how I hurt you or send a message to you. And that's how I try to do it, at least on social media. I don't even know who wrote it. And I think that's for the best because I don't want to know. I don't want to interact. I want them to be left alone. I want to leave them alone as well. So let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.